So Donald Stojack always talks to interesting people all day long. And today, I'm really excited to talk to probably one of the most interesting persons that has ever crossed paths with me is Dr. Kim Bonniksen. And I just call her Kim. And for all of you here listening today, Kim is someone I met back when I was working with Chet Holmes. And one of the things that I was doing back then was being a proponent of Chet's core story strategy. And that was his preeminent kind of marketing, signature marketing piece. And I was the salesperson selling those things. And Chet Holmes was absolutely brilliant. But I will tell you what made the core stories work that I sold is because it was Kim Bonniksen, Dr. Kim Bonniksen, um, who put those things together. And because her doctorate is in research, and the core story strategy really is about finding what is missing in the marketplace. What is nobody talking about, right? And doing the right kind of research to reset the buying criteria. But what I have noticed about Kim over the years is that she didn't stay there. She has improved this strategy like massively. And we might talk about that today, we might not. But I want to tell you, in life and in business, there are dragons. There are dragons out in front of us. And as I face my dragons, both in business and life, there is nobody else that I would want to have at my side other than Kim. And Kim has actually been at my side for many years, and she has carried me massively. If you've got a dragon that you're facing in business, you want Kim Bonniksen on your side because she will help you slay the dragon massively. And I don't say that very lightly. I've watched her do it. I've watched her take down some of the biggest dragons that you could ever imagine. Um, and with that, what I would like to maybe ask Kim, because here we are in this year, and there's a lot of turmoil out there in the world. And there's a lot of turmoil in business. What do we do, Kim? As business people, as people that are trying to make it out there, how do we attack those dragons so that they don't burn holes through us?
Way to start lightweight, Donald.
And
Ain't
and
no
maybe and
fireside
maybe
chat.
just by word of introduction, there again, Kim's got a doctorate in research. Um, when you think of names like Tony Robbins, or if you think about companies like Costco, and Kim is behind some major paradigm shifts and some big things out there. But she's also done it on a small level as well. And she's also done it in her own life. She has three wonderful boys and a wonderful husband. Her sons are like magic because they have magic parents. But having said that, I have seen major shifts in companies' marketing messages that have moved them across, not just across the finish line, but 10 goal yards down because of Kim's insight and movement of that.
Thank you, Donald.
Well, it's the truth.
So, to answer your question, I stopped doing legends when the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped because I felt called to support educators.
Kim Bonniksen.
So, I don't know what that was. So I was really, as you know, Donald, my husband Eric is the president of the Small School Districts Association. And during the pandemic, I witnessed school leaders be forced by so many dragons. Like it was so unfair and
Mm-hmm.
so uh, devastating. I listened to school leaders sobbing over the challenges that the children of their districts were facing. So my husband and I created a framework that we taught that I think is the answer to the question that you just
Mm.
asked. And we were asked to present it on a nationwide scale at the very first seminar that happened in person post-pandemic. And the topics that we were asked to present on was crisis agnostic design. I'm going to say that again.
Ooh, slowly.
Agnostic design. So what's agnostic?
Kind of like
Anybody know?
not sure which way you want to go.
That's kind of it. It doesn't matter. So crisis, obviously, the challenges, the dragons. So the concept of it is to design your life, to design your systems in such a way that regardless of the crisis, you continue to operate at your true levels. I think you got it. Repeat it back to me.
No matter
I saw
what,
it in your eyes.
no matter what is being thrown at you, all the doo-doo, you're able to stand tall and make the world work.
Make your world work.
Mm-hmm.
You're not responsible for the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really key because as leaders, we think it's our job to fix everything in front of us.
Mm.
But we're better to stay in our lane. And I shared with you The Great Leap by Gay Hendricks,
Yes.
and we talked about zones of genius.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do anyone in your circle a favor by diminishing yourself to a zone of incompetence. If you are behaving in an incompetent manner because you think you're needed, you're probably making a bigger mess. True or false?
True.
Okay. So if we adapt our systems, our mindset to this is who I am, this is who I serve, and these are the ways that I'm gifted with skills that serve that population. Now, that might be our spouse, that might be our children, that might be the people we work with, it might be a religious organization. Whatever communities we choose to be a part of, we have a role to play. And when we stick to the roles that give us time in our zone of genius, we experience what he labels Einstein time. And Einstein time, I think you probably all experienced this, is where you are so in the zone, literally, that time disappears,
Mm.
that days have gone by, and you're so enamored in the projects, in the momentum, in the mission of what you're doing, that time is irrelevant. You're not tired. You're not hungry. You don't need external validation because your spirit is full and your soul is calling to complete this work. That's crisis agnostic design. It's staying true to you, to the people you serve, and to the missions you're called for.
And it's interesting. And you and I have got some projects going, and
Do.
I'm really excited because I think so much of the walls that get encountered in business. And I just jumped off of an incredible series of workshops with Eric Forrester here on the call about overcoming these walls. I think businesses are out of alignment and they don't realize it. They um, they think they know who they serve, but they don't, or or they know who they serve, but they really don't know about them. But I think more importantly, as you're mentioning that, because there again, so many people on this call I've recommended that book to, but the Kim is the source of recommending it to Donald's, full disclosure. So if you want to know the source of Donald's genius, it's Kim Bonniksen here. So yeah, I'm pulling back the curtain, and you're seeing the wizard say, "What's behind the curtain?" For me, one of my wizards, one of my main mentors is Kim. But I think, and as
But let
I
me stop you there for a minute. Let me make really clear that we are both each other's wizards.
well, Yes.
Now, that's the beauty of
Mhm.
it, is
Yeah.
being a wizard to people you care about
Yeah.
and allowing them to be a wizard in your life as well.
Mm.
Because when you encourage that synchronicity, you grow exponentially in your ideologies, in your capacity, in your levels of happiness. All of those feed off of each other in a cycle that is self-generating. You don't need to go to the gas station. We
Yeah.
are each other's gas stations.
Yeah. Yeah. And the back to that and to the thread there too, it's like knowing you have to know your market better than they know themselves. But before you can know your market better than they know yourself, than they know themselves, you have to know who you are. And I think so many and what Kim and I have found as we go into so many businesses is they don't know who they are. And so they're thinking, why is my message, why is my social media not working? Why are my emails not being opened? Or why are we stagnant? Why are my employees not showing up? Or why, if they're showing up, are they not working at their potential? It's because they really don't know themselves. And so part of her genius, I think, the zone of genius within the research is not just having the research that looks outward, it's the kind of research that looks inward as well. And then you've got to be able to make the connections between the two. And that's part of the magic. Could you tell us more about that, Kim?
So, the way that you and I tend to explain it when we talk to business owners uh, is using the metaphor of a jar.
Mhm.
So, if you're the jam inside the jar, you can't read the label.
Mhm.
How do you read the label? If you're the business owner inside the business, you have no objectivity. Asking you to be the one to evaluate where you are, it's completely impossible. That's not a research paradigm that anyone can ascribe to. So it's being able to rely on someone that you trust with your most important missions, to be able to come in from an objective standpoint and do observation, do deep questions, conduct a vision quest, and
Mhm.
find out where the roots of this business are. Why did it begin? Where was the passion? And remind those that have been buried in the details, stuck in the weeds of operating the business, the why, the who, the really important questions that tend to get diminished in the face of crises.
Mhm.
So when we face struggles, we go to work. And crisis agnostic principles say, know that all of that's going to come at you. We know there's going to be disasters. We know there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. We anticipate those and we stick to. So we present a product, I guess, in the legend. And the legend is formulated based on oral traditions. So if you think way back to childhood, we're told stories as children. And those stories are way more than stories. They're lessons. They're teaching us how to be good people. They're teaching us how to love. They're teaching us how to get along in society. And that's what oral tradition has always been. But in advertising, we kind of forgot
Mhm.
our roots and we left aside the ways of communication that tell us whether or not someone is authentic. And what we know about organizations is if we can get to that little center, the hub of who and what they are, then everything else that emanates from the hub is going to be in tune and in sync. It's when you start shooting random spokes out that you don't have a wheel anymore and nothing moves. But if you keep the hub, your legend and your truth succinct and always constant, So if you feel like things are going wrong, you go back to the hub and you say, okay, where did we get off from who we are? And maybe you've changed a little bit who you are, but that's going to be little micro transitions. You don't have a day and night of I'm this business today, I'm this business tomorrow. If you do that, you're a liar and you're a scam and you deserve to fail.
Do you think the example of that major wholesaler retailer that charges a membership fee would be a good example of what we're talking about?
Probably.
And does anybody know who we're talking about? When I say a major retailer that has a membership, and if you want to know who is responsible for a paradigm shift, we have her on the call.
So to be really transparent, it wasn't necessarily a shift
Mm,
or change. It was a return to their roots,
a recalibration?
a
A
recalibration,
I
a
was waiting to use that
recalibration.
word.
Oh, good.
As Kim and I are on a project to help some businesses recalibrate, okay, just to show you the power of it. You know, there have been big behemoths. You know, we think about Sears, we think about IBM, right? You think they had it made. And because they failed to do this, they're in the dustbins of history. So here's an example that I'll let Kim maybe share from her perspective what that looked like.
So we completed a project for Costco's business division. So if you remember, so Costco started in your state, Donald,
Yeah,
in
right in my
Washington.
backyard. I mean, literally, I think I was a member at store number 3.
Yep. So originally, Costco was not what we see today, which is largely consumer driven. It was the warehouse for businesses, especially small businesses. And what they found, this has been 12, 13 years ago, what they found was that they were losing business members to, at the time, Sam's Club and Office Depot sort of fell off the rails, but they were threatening Costco and Sam's Club to take over the business world. It didn't happen. I don't know if I had anything to do with that. Maybe. Um, so the whole principle, their legend was called the Legend of the Entrepreneur, Legend of the American Entrepreneur. And we highlighted how critical small business is to the economy of the United States and why those business owners deserved a gorilla in the fight. And Costco literally was the gorilla that stood up to large manufacturers and got the best deals that would work for small business owners. Now, I don't know if you are old enough to remember going into Costco's and seeing on the walls the big banners that talked about each of the business services that would be offered. They don't exist anymore. You'd have to go back in your memory to be able to look at that. So their whole campaign was to hold back the business community because they had focused so much on the mom and pop that was going and buying in bulk for groceries. Well, those clients are not as good a client as a business. So servicing the consumer client was more expensive. It was more competitive, less reward, but that was all where all their energy went. And so their leadership hired us to shift that back. So it wasn't new. It was, we got off. Our spokes are not where they're supposed to be anymore. And so we did this huge campaign where we used call centers. We communicated directly with every business owner that was a Costco member, and we conducted original research to see what they needed. What do we need the gorilla that is Costco to do for us? And we switched that messaging and put the narrative back to, we are your advocate. We are the gorilla that will come in and decimate the world where small business owners are taken advantage of, where they're charged more because they can't afford to buy in bulk. So as a group, we knew we needed, say, banking services, credit card processing. We needed access to health insurance. stuff that the mom and pop consumer walks by and says, I don't need any of that. I got coverage. But small business owners, that's life and death. That's keeping their family secure. So it was a shift. And interestingly enough, that is the first legend that was a
Mm.
shift from core story. So a little bit of drama, Donald.
Yep.
Um,
I
so
remember.
yeah. Um,
So
Donald and
if
I,
anybody wants to know who can make sparks happen in a room, it's Kim. So,
we lit it up. So here's the scenario. Our mentor, Chet, was diagnosed with leukemia, just tragic, out of nowhere. Tried everything and sadly passed away from it. There were members in our organization that took advantage of that situation, and it became a coup. Would you say a coup,
mm,
Donald?
it's a bloodbath.
It was a bloodbath. So
Yeah.
without getting more specific, it was a mess. And Donald and I were trying to be ethical, trying to keep our integrity and make the best of a really gnarly situation. In the midst of that, those sparks flew, and Kim and that organization separated. That caused major drama because Costco was the biggest contract they had ever landed. And Costco said, we're canceling because they substituted me with people they didn't really want. So Costco put their foot down and said, if we don't get Dr. Bonniksen, you can cancel our contract and we're out. So I negotiated, and Chet and I had been rewriting the Ultimate Sales Machine with the updated
Mhm.
version of the core story because it was falling flat because it lacked emotional connection, and because the casting. I'm kind of rambling, Donald. Am I making sense
Well,
still?
if it basically Chet's signature thing is the core story, but I think where Kim took it up a notch is like core story meets hero's journey meets
Yes.
actually um anthropological fact to what actually works. And so I think Kim was able to distill it down from a nice theory that might have worked a couple times to actually a working model that works pretty much every time because it actually follows the
Ancient wisdom.
pathway that humans actually live. I mean, I know it's shocking, but rather than fighting anthropology, let's see what can we learn about that. And Kim's brilliant. She's distilled it down to a process that each one of us could find great power in.
So the very biggest difference between what we were offering to what we were transitioning to and what Legends became was the casting of the characters. In Core Story, the hero of the story was always the speaker. It was always the company that we were writing the marketing for. But the challenge there is if that's the hero, then the target market becomes the victim.
Hmm.
And nobody likes that casting. And no, for the longest time, they kept saying, Kim, you got to figure this out. Why are they so angry at us when we're going to deliver this? And I'm like, well, you're ticking them off. You're
Hmm.
insulting them. I'm like,
And so
you.
the sales team, if a sales team was utilizing that strategy, so much of their sales call was overcoming objections. Were they getting sales? Yeah, but the energy was at the wrong end of the spectrum.
So the shift, the big shift, the ideological shift is why do you have to be the hero of your own story? Why can't you be a guide? Why can't you be the Yoda? Let somebody else be Luke Skywalker. You're not young anymore. You don't need to go out and do all of the mountain climbing. You can be the guide that shows the way. And that shift is in tune with our ancient strategies of persuasion. Because if you're the guide, you care for the hero. You mean it when you say you want them to succeed. and you're invested with them. So we had already presented this to Costco as the ideology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they've been asked to go back to traditional, which is all pain, pain, pain. You're broken, broken, broken. Let us fix you, fix you, fix you. And they revolted. It was really ugly. Um, so I heard because I wasn't in on these meetings. Were you?
No, but well, no, but yes, I heard.
Did you?
Oh gosh.
Now I'm curious
We
because
knew, well, I didn't, I knew things were not right. You know what I mean? You could see
yeah.
you could see the blood coming under the door.
So
Mhm.
at any rate, we made a deal, and Costco is the very first legend published, Legend of the American Entrepreneur. And
And if you get a
it's
Costco
done well.
magazine and
Mhm.
you see Costco highlighting small businesses, see that's kind of a result of that. And and so you see part of the thing here is that yeah, this is a great idea, but how do we actually do it? In other words, you got to make your ideal client, the marketplace, the hero, and you got to be the trusted guy. Okay, great, wonderful theory, but how do we get there? And so that's where the deep research comes in, knowing how to do that. And there's really a kind of a detailed process in there. Is it simple? Yeah.
Yes.
Is it easy?
Yes.
No. Well, can
If you take away all of these inhibitions and all
ah,
of these external things, it's instinctual.
mm,
If you just give in and trust your gut, it's so easy.
yeah.
It's the easiest marketing you'll ever do.
And Tom, you're listening so intently, and I'm watching I know how your brain kind of works there. Questions. What's resonating here? Where are you in a fog, or where's this bringing some massive clarity?
It's I'm very present, but I'm also kind of distant from everybody else too, because gorilla kind of came up a couple times. I've been
Oh,
seeing that word come up a few times recently, and and you talk about the hero's journey, and there's a program
yeah.
that I went through that involved the hero's journey, and through that hero's journey, I don't know if I acquired, I was given the name the Dorilla as opposed to the Gorilla because half it's a creature that's a half the female deer, but the other half is a gorilla. So it's very
Yeah.
kind and gentle and loving, but it's also this big, massive, powerful beast. So there's a lot of things that are just kind of coming up that
Ah,
are kind of outside of this conversation, but are applicable to me, if that makes any sense.
yeah. That's kind of cool though. Isn't it something?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's trying to speak to me, or what I'm being told, or what they're trying to
Cool.
tell me. So.
Excellent. Anybody else?
So, Donald and Kim, this is fantastic. I'm fairly familiar with the core story as it appears in Chet's book. That's my only experience with it. And I'm curious, and the legend piece, I'm not quite, that sounds like something that came a little bit later. But I'm just curious where, and let me say this also, the core story completely resonates with, I mean, it resonates with me, and I'm using it as I'm able to.
Mm.
But I'm curious where what you're saying veers off from that, and maybe it doesn't. I'm just not quite sure
Uh,
if I missed a turn or I'm on the wrong way.
so the legend, Eric, the difference is, and they're gonna, as I've shared with some of you, I did not realize how prolific I was in selling Chet's core story. In other words, Donald bought into it 1,000%. And I don't think anybody sold more core stories than Donald Stojack in tenure then or even to this day. And I can do a core story with my eyes closed. The legend core story basically moves that needle way over and finds well a core story, Eric, I think is to way to look at it. A core story is kind of static. Okay, it kind of sits in a place. And maybe that worked at one time. Maybe when we were more one-dimensional in the marketplace. We got a black and white newspaper, or it was just, when satellite radio came in, you think maybe it would work. The marketplace is much more savvy nowadays. You have to have a lot more touch points as a marketer, as a salesperson, to get through to who you're talking to. So the market is dynamic and it shifts by the moment. The problem with the core story is it stays in one place, where a legend core story truly taps into the core emotion. And because now that you're tapped into the core emotion, you have flexibility. And you're not understanding the surface of your client. You're truly understanding the core of your own being and your own offer, and can connect it then with the marketplace. And not just the marketplace, but actually the ideal client in that marketplace, because there's always within a marketplace a smaller subset of better clients or ideal clients. And too many businesses, they get every client that they can. We're all guilty of that, right? Yeah, Terry, everybody shows up at your workshop. You think, I want all of them to sign up for my program. No, you don't, right? Because some of them you don't want in your program, but you think, oh, I wanted to pay. Because truly what you want to develop is not clients. And I think Chet's core story was masterful developing clients. You want to develop advocates. When your methodologies now, because they are dynamic, not static, and they are truly tied into your core and connecting with the ideal client out there, defining them, now your processes, your sales funnels, or whatever, are not just transactional. You're dropping bombs off that are basically, any given tactic. That means rather than a post just getting a like to a post going viral. That's how I would say the change is. It's in orders of magnitude. It's not an incremental increase. That's the difference. Because the power really lies within the human spirit, and what the human spirit naturally attaches to. And so if you can take who you are and naturally attach it to the natural mechanisms that are already there, you're going to amplify your imprint out into the world in orders of magnitude. Does that make sense? It's like, really? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Maybe we could teach the legends structure. I think that might make more sense.
Can we do it in 10 minutes?
We can do it in one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody think back to your favorite bedtime story that you had as a child, or you spoke to your children, or your favorite movie. Any of those things. I'll give you 5 seconds. See if my formula matches that structure. Chapter 1, once upon a time. Chapter 2, there was a dragon, an enemy, a bad guy. Chapter 3, a great hero was called to fight the dragon. Chapter 4, the hero relied on the services of a trusted essential guide. Chapter 5, the guide provided a new path, a magical weapon, a new idea, a strength that you didn't know you had. Chapter 6, the worst thing you can do to a hero is send them off with rose-colored glasses and let them go on their way to fight the dragon and get bit by the snake on the side of the road because they weren't paying attention. So chapter 6 is forewarnings. What dangers are on the way to fight the dragon? So don't get killed before you get to the battle. Chapter 7, I'm sure you can guess it, and they all success. That's it. Legends, landscape, enemies, great hero, essential guide, new path, dangers, success. Now we teach that to companies, but if you use that in everyday life, you can talk your kids into anything you want, because they are the hero of the story. you are the guide. Now, you don't call out those chapters, you just speak that way. And that is the human instinctual way of communicating about something you actually care about. Easy enough?
Questions, thoughts. Where do we apply that? How do we do that in our business?
Do you want me to say the chapters one more time? So write out legends down your paper, Legends, landscape. Here, I got a picture. Landscape. Enemies. Great hero. Lousy tape. Just kidding. Essential guide. New path. Dangers. Success. Now you can tell that story in 30 seconds. You can tell it in a weekend seminar. The length is irrelevant. If you use every element of those pieces, it resonates as truth. That's when you trigger the gut reaction of, I believe you. I'm in. Sign me up.
Eric, you're smiling. And I know why you're smiling.
Yeah, this is, I'm going to leave out the bad adjective. This is brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant and it's organic.
Oh,
Any human can put this into his or her or their language, depending on the circumstances and who they're talking, or yeah.
no.
Does it kind of make you say, duh?
Yeah, well,
Why haven't I always done this?
I wasn't allowed to say duh as a kid, so but yes.
It's like,
This is basically Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey.
It is,
Star
but
Wars.
know that Joseph Campbell took it from ancient Aboriginal stories.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So did Aristotle.
But I love it how you reframe it. So, because in a selling point of view, again, we're the trusted guide, and the hero in the journey is the company that we're working with. And if we can take them on that journey and tell them that story,
Yep.
and put them in that place, and that's a totally new way of thinking about the selling.
yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's complicated?
Not at all.
Oh, I do. I feel the same way. Like, you're revivifying something that's ancient, that because it's universally true and it crosses all kinds of traditions and disciplines and domains, but to bring it forward in a new, fresh way, I have like increasing respect for that process as just something like you see, like the more you live on. I used to think things are derivative or da 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 da, but I don't think that at all anymore. Like, I think that this is part of like that it's important to bring these ideas forward and make them relevant in different domains or to different audiences and things, because they do have the weight of truth, right? They work. They work because they're related to psychological steps. And like you're saying, I love, Kim, when you're like, this is how you connect with your child and bring them around to, like, to really what it is a shift in an energy that you can, that's what you're doing. You're shifting the energy so you can direct it. You can do that for whatever purpose you want, whether that's to move people toward a sale, or, to just sort of get to yes in anywhere, or to, get your patient to work with you. Like, I work in medicine. So you want to give them a sense of like being powerfully related to whatever is coming next, So any way that we can move them along a set of steps that we know is reliable, to be able to get that shift in energy and then potentially direct it to something, whether that's like vote this way or buy this thing, or maybe you do want to continue with your piano lessons, or let's find out, or whatever, So yeah, it is brilliant. And I do see like it's truth. Like it's the real deal. Thank you for sharing this take
My
on
pleasure.
it.
So we've seen a lot of really ugly things in the news lately. We've got Palestine. We've got all kinds of change happening in the United States that is making people really anxious and really sad and uncomfortable. And when a couple years after we initiated Legends, we were contacted by a nonprofit group out of Iraq who were trying to put the country back together after all of its intellectuals got either assassinated or exiled from the country. So now, post-war, they're trying to rebuild civilization from the ground up, right? So they asked my team to come in and help them over a 3-week training session of the top people they could find, right? So I'm preparing for this trip, which, by the way, we didn't get to go on because we were going to meet in Turkey because it was the safe, neutral ground. But the Turkish had a revolt the week before we were supposed to go. But I thought, okay, this is going to be a true test of whether or not these chapters 1 through 7 actually are universal. And I thought, if anything is going to break this formula, it's going to be a completely different style of upbringing and history than our Western world. I mean, it's about as opposite as we can get. So I went back to ancient Shia, ancient tribes in Iraq, in Iran, in all of the Middle Eastern territories where we see so much violence and so much turmoil. And you know, their folklore matches the folklore of Australian Aboriginals, of South American Aboriginals, of ancient European tribes, of the Asian continent. You name it, I have yet to find one ancient culture that doesn't match this formula, which to me as a researcher says, this is not a human invention. This is a human gift that is given to us by the mere fact that we are human. And it's an instinct as innate as the sucking reflex of a baby. This is how we tell whether or not someone is in our circle, part of a group we actually can trust and rely on. And those are instincts. And you cannot supplant an instinct. When you get into a situation where you read, thank you for the comment on the energy, when you read that energy shift and all the words are right, but your gut is screaming at you, that's what's happening.
And you know, with this, it plays out in the most unusual places. I found as I do my work, because I've kind of gone deep on all of this stuff with Kim for a number of years. I was training a sales team on Tuesday, and they're struggling. And what sales team is not struggling nowadays? Because it's hard out there, right? And I basically said, grab a pencil, draw a circle. You know, where am I with that? Right? And I says, now, rather than forcing people into your offer, draw them into your circle. And you would have, if you could have seen their faces on the Zoom call, their jaws dropped, right? They went from like, how do we do this to like, oh, do you feel the difference? And so challenge yourself with that as you're facing your marketplace out there. Draw a circle on on a paper and just say to yourself, how do I draw them into the circle? Don't
Can I
push.
give you one more piece to that?
Yeah, yeah.
So here's your circle, Donald. Here's their circle. Where do those circles overlap?
Yeah.
If they don't, you don't have any business.
No. Yeah.
Being in each other's circle.
Yep.
So where do those circles merge, and how can you make that circle better because of that overlap?
Yeah.
Where in your world are you in service to them? Because the fact of the matter is that every hero is also in service to their guide. They give as much as you give.
Mhm.
This is not a one-way street. Every hero feeds you back empowerment, feeds you back the assurity, the knowledge that you're doing good in the world, and that gives you momentum.
Buy one, give one.
Yeah,
Anybody?
the Venn is representative of not just like a 1+1 or
Yeah.
finding, but of emergent properties, right? And that is that
Mhm.
energy shift. Like it is literally physics. Like it's a great rabbit hole to go down if you want to understand influence or persuasion or just the human condition at all.
Mhm.
Because that finding the ellipsis, that finding the commonality in like what you're trying to achieve or values alignment, finding that through line between values and then what you're trying to move people toward or showing them, not even moving them toward, like you say, you're magnetizing them, you're just helping them discover that for themselves, and then it's easy because they found the through line. But that the Venn I love, and I use it a lot in my work too, and the flower of life and the seed of life and the bigger, more and more and more sophisticated emergent properties. That is the key. If you actually create that, it's a great metaphor, but it's also it has the effect of expanding your sense, expanding your actual energy. And it's difficult to measure, but we all feel it. And
Mhm.
then you have that to work with. That's
Yeah.
what can allow you to like heal or grow or adapt or say
Mhm.
yes to something that's outside of your comfort zone, but that is still truly for you. Because, right, we're trying to do this ethically, but like it is, it becomes more than the sum of its parts, right?
Yeah.
And we say that
Yeah.
all the time, but think about what that really, really means because it's
Yeah.
real. It's invisible, but it's real and it's felt. And if you get that, you never have to sell a day in your life because it's just so clear.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Robin. And Kim and I are on a mission. And so our mission is really to change the landscape of businesses here. We're kind of targeting like 10 million and up as far as revenue. And those are some of the most impactful ships out there and trying to get those ships to kind of change and turn around. And sometimes we think, I would love to be a 10 million or up company. No, you don't. It's
Hard.
like, talk about, Heartburn City. One of my enterprises, we've got designs to take it to 100 million. And every time I look at that, I think, oh my gosh, am I really going to be on that journey at some point here? So the key here, I think, within each of you is how can I actually do this, right? And so kind of noodle on that. I mean, feel free to reach back out to myself or to Kim. We've done this. We are doing this. We're in the game every day. One of our partners in our project is Troy Aberley, and I've been very honored to work with Troy. And I think between my understanding of how this applies to businesses, Kim's deep resonance with the research part of it, and Troy really knows how to put this in play in a company. It's great to this is all great, but now what do we do? And when you can kind of combine all of those things, you've got a massive shift ready to unleash in the universe. And we're really kind of excited about some of the stuff that we have upcoming. So kind of watch our channels and, check out my LinkedIn profile and Kim's and Troy Aberley. And I think we're really kind of excited with that. Any final questions or comments? Was this helpful for you today? And as I always do on my trainings, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate this? You have to come off mute. Eric, on a scale of 1 to 10.
I don't follow directions well. I gave it a 20.
Okay, so Eric, why a 20 and not a 30? So you fell into my trap. So when I do my trainings, it's see this is the process you've always got to do, no matter what anybody says. Okay, that's great, but why just that? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're only giving it a 20. I think we got some work to do, and so whatever feedback you get, I think the challenge for any of us in our own lives and our own business is to do better, and that's the story. Thank you, Kim. This was wonderful today.
Really fun.
the voices rising through time, truth in the rhythm, fire in the line, from silence to signal, from echo to flame. Legends don't whisper, they rise with a name. Voices of legends. This is the upcast. Voices of legends. This is the upcast. Voices of legends, this is the upcast. Voices of legends, this is the upcast. Voices of legends, this is the upcast. Voices of legends. This is the upcast. Voices of legends, this is the upcast. Voices of legends, this is the upcast. Voices of legends, this is the upcast.